All right. This is a subject formula, change of subject formulas as the topic is being introduced on the board. The short information about subject formula for students to understand when they say subject formula what it means. It means short note about subject formula. The ideas behind the change of subject formula is to make sure that we make a particular variable or letter to stand independently. So basically, to make a particular letter to stand independently, it should not be related to any term. It should stand alone. That is the idea behind the change of subject formula. Now, if you look at these topics, it's very important because even this year, it came in white 2024, whereby they ask you to make a particular variable or letter to become a subject formula. Now, basically, this topic is very interesting. It's not difficult, but most students find it very difficult to find this when they ask them make a particular variable subject formula. So now, basically now, let's look at the first example. As we understand what I mean by subject formula, it means to make a particular variable or letter. When I say variable, these are letters from alphabetical letter from A, B, C, D up to Z. They are used in mathematical expression. That's what I mean by variable. Now, basically, let's look at the first example. The first example, as it's stated there, make X the subject of the relations Y, capital Y, equals to mx plus c. Now, basically, these are terms that normally questions are drawn. Now, basically, sometimes they say make X the subject of the formula. Sometimes they say make X the subject of the relation. Sometimes they say make X the subject of the equation. Now, basically, if you look at this, it's an equation. That's why all these terms are applicable there. So students should not rely on only saying that, only, okay, I see my teachers always telling me that make X the subject of the relation. And when you come, some circumstance change. Sometimes you might see a question will say make X the subject of the equation. You might be confused, but basically it's all the same thing. It means it's an equation. If you look at this term, it's an equation. Now, basically, now let's look at the first equation. Now, solution. If we are to solve this, we don't need to copy the whole of the question. What we need, this is the questions we need. This is what we are going to cut it and paste it here and we solve it. Now, basically now, let's start it. And here, as the way the question is given to you, you don't change any letters. If it is written in a capital letter, we have to maintain throughout. If it is written in small letters, the same thing. Now, basically now, let's continue. Solution. I have y equals to mx plus c. Now here our intention is to make x to stand alone, basically. That's what we mean. That's what the question says. Make x the subject of the formula. So now by doing that now, we are going to set y minus c. We are going to move this term to this other area, and whenever they are jumping over the equal sign, the sign it carries, it changes to the inverse. Inverse means the opposite sign. If it is plus, when it jumps over this equal sign, it becomes minus, because the inverse, the opposite of plus, is always minus. So therefore equals to this term we left there, that is mx. Now here our intention is to make x the subject to stand alone, and x is standing with a letter or with a term there. With a letter, that letter is m. So divide both sides by m here and divide by m here. So now basically you cancel. You either cancel them separately or only one stroke that satisfies you. So now from there now, therefore, our intention now is coming to fulfill. Therefore, y minus c all over m, as it has been stated. This is the final answer. So now I want to apply another method different from this to see whether the answers will tally, whether the answers will be the same. Now let's apply another method. That's going to be the alternative method. Alternative method. Now, good. Now this alternative method, now we have y, that is capital Y, As the way it is in the question, you don't make it small y. You have to maintain them like that. Equals to mx plus c. Now here what we are going to do, since I want this term to stand alone here, this side, so I'm going to find the inverse of this. Now the inverse of plus c is going to be minus c. And likewise this other side minus c. I draw my line. So plus c minus c, when you go to the integers, integers will tell you that the same term with different sign is always reduced to 0. Good. Now basically, so this means out. So what left there, this term, that's what left in this other side. So meaning now, we are going to say now, y minus c equals to this side, what left there, mx. So from there we said divide both sides by m. Divide this other side by m. The reason why we divide both sides by m is because it's an equation, and equation simple mean balancing. We have to balance. What you do to the other side, you must do the same thing to the other side. That's what it means by equation. It means balancing. We are trying to play a fair games there. Now let's look at this. So as we said, you either cancel them separately. If you look at here, I just maintain only one stroke. This is also allowed. So now from there now, we are going to have, therefore now, this x now is now equals to y minus c all over m equals to y. You have to maintain your y as capital Y all over m. This is another answer. So now if you look at this, all these answers are the same. So basically mathematics is different approaches, but at the end the same answer. So if you look at this, it's different methodologies or different method, but at the end is the same answer at the end. And this is what is important. Good. Now away from there, let's look at another example.